Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Fantasy Rodeo Picks. We're talking steer wrestling today. We are brought to you by Virgin Hotels Las Vegas. And with the steer wrestling, usually if you've watched these before, you will see, I will point out a couple guys, 6 or 7 guys that I actually am considering picking or that you should consider picking. And I'm also giving numbers and stats and data around why to pick those guys. The steer wrestling is a little different because over the last really 4 or 5 years, we have seen the steer wrestling gets much tighter. The distribution of who places is much larger than some of the other events, where some of the other events, you name it, tie-down roping, saddle bronc riding, barrel racing, there have been athletes in recent years who will place in 7, 8, 9, or 10 rounds. And I think that'll be the case again this year. You will see a saddle bronc rider place in 8 rounds. You will see a bareback rider place in 8 rounds. Steer wrestling's a little different. You'll see the top guys place in 5 rounds maybe. It's just much closer across the board than the other events. And so with that being said as well, while in tie-down roping and barrel racing and saddle bronc riding and bull riding, your highest money earner in Las Vegas will probably earn close to $250,000. You're looking at closer to $175,000 maybe in the steer wrestling. Again, because of that different distribution in just more guys collecting more checks. There's more seemingly money for everybody in the steer wrestling. But again, that being said, that means at the top end, it is more difficult to pull away. And so I say all that to introduce the fact that in the steer wrestling, I don't have a ton of clue what's going to happen. And I don't have a ton of numbers that allow me to more definitively say what I think will happen. So the way we're going to do it is I'm not really going to give as many opinions. I don't have as many opinions on the steer wrestling. I'm just going to give you 1 through 12 who I think are all worthy picks for your team. And I'm just going to make an argument for each of them. And then it is up to you, as it always is, who you would actually like to select for your team. So now that my steer wrestling is close, my steer wrestling is packed, disclaimer is out of the way, let's get into it with Will Lummus. And the argument for Will Lummus is that he leads the PRCA in everything having to do with making fast runs. He leads the PRCA in average time. He leads in 4.5 second or faster runs with 42 of them. He leads in runs of 4 flat or faster with 31 of them. The next closest, Jesse Brown at 21. And with Will Lummus, because he's been unable to get over the hump of winning the world title, some people, and I may have been part of this problem, would have you believe that Will Lummus is not good at the National Finals Rodeo. And that couldn't be further from the case because he has never entered the NFR number 1 and he consistently moves up. Like I said, the one issue is just that he can't get over the final hump of being a world champion. But he does do well in the Thomas and Mack year in and year out. He won the average in 2021. He was 4th in 2023. He was 2nd in 2024. And a year ago, every single run was between 3.7 or 5.2 and 5.2. If he is between 3.7 and 5.2 on every single run again this year, with a $33,000 cushion on Jesse Brown, there is a good chance he wins that gold buckle. Our next guy, we just talked about him, is Jesse Brown. Year in and year out, finishes in the top 6. Never quite in world title contention, but is always floating around it there. Last year, he wins round 5 and 10. He places in 5 rounds. And the year before that, in 2023, 2nd in the average. So I do love over the last 2 years, he has got it done in different ways at the National Finals Rodeo. Again, 2024 places in 5 rounds, wins 2 of them. 2023, 2nd in the average. Then I will always point out as well with Jesse Brown how well he does on similar setups to the Thomas and Mack. He made the finals of the Governor's Cup. He won Fort Worth. He won San Angelo. He can make those really fast runs. Again, he is 2nd to Will Lummus in runs of 4 flat or faster this season. Our next guy, Justin Schaefer, has a lot of good things to work off of. I think he's a big-time sleeper here. He won the Governor's Cup with 4 straight runs of 3.9 or faster. If he makes 5, 6, 7 runs of 3.9 or faster on a similar setup at the Thomas and Mack, he could very well be your world champion. He also, at 5.84, ranks second in average time to Will Lummus. And last year in his NFR debut, this really stood out to me. His slowest time was 5.5, and he missed a steer in round 2. If he can clean either one of those things up, if he can catch all 10 at 5.5 or faster, he's in really good shape. If he can make that 5.5 his one little mistake and turn it into a 4.5, he's also in really good shape. If he does both, he has a chance to win that gold buckle. The next guy, Rowdy Parrott, I think we forgot last year that Rowdy Parrott really was in gold buckle contention. He made a lot of noise in that steer wrestling race coming from outside of the top 10. And in making that noise, he went into the final round really having a chance at the world title. He ended up 5th in the world. He placed in 5 rounds. He won round 2. He was 3rd in the average. He won $163,000. And so all of that being said, that was his first NFR since 2022. Didn't make it in 2023. So he comes back in 2024 as the best NFR of his career and backs that up with a regular season in which he finished number 4 in the world. He was 3rd in the PRCA of runs of 4 flat or faster. He can make those fast times, 4th in average time. He can make the really fast runs that it takes at the National Finals Rodeo. Our next guy, Tucker Allen. This is the one guy who may not have the best value just because he won Rodeo Houston, but I wouldn't say struggled, but he did a lot of damage at bigger rodeos, and that was really it. So he wins Houston, places in 2 rounds in his NFR debut. He is going to need to be better than that. He's going to need to place in 4 or 5 rounds to really give you that opportunity if you have him on your team. JD Struxness enters number 6 in the world following his gold buckle season. Last year, he was 36 seconds on 9. So he missed 1 steer, but despite missing that 1 steer, he followed it up by averaging 4 seconds per run, with his slowest run being 4.6 or faster, or being 4.6. And I mentioned the money gets tighter at the NFR for the steer wrestlers. So this is a key stat, I feel like, for JD Struxness. He has made at least $100,000 in 3 of his last 4 NFRs. That includes $162,000 a year ago. Remember, however, number 4, Rowdy Parrott, did make more than the world champion JD Struxness last year. For Stetson Jorgenson, our number 7 man, he was number 7 a year ago at the National Finals Rodeo. He placed in 4 rounds, placed in 5 rounds in 2023. So over his last 2 seasons, he has placed in 45% of his NFR rounds. That's really good, especially for a steer wrestler. Then you look at how fast has he been able to go this year. Ranked 2nd with Rowdy Parrott, 35 runs of 4.5 seconds or faster. Then the big money runs, he is tied for 5th with Tyler Waguespack. And before we move on to Tyler Waguespack, I want to go through those guys' leaders of runs of 4 seconds flat or faster, because I think that tells us a good story and a good place to kind of review what we have talked about. You see Will Lummus, 31, Jesse Brown, 21, Rowdy Parrott, 16, JD Struxness, 15, Stetson Jorgenson, Tyler Waguespack tied with 14. Then we get into Eldridge, Irwin, and so on. But when you look at, again, Stetson Jorgenson and Tyler Waguespack, same ability this year to make those runs of 4 flat or faster. But talking about Tyler Waguespack, he might be the best pick. If there's one opinion that I do have, I think it's that Tyler Waguespack's the best value. I think. He's got 5 world titles. He moved up 5 spots in the 2024 NFR by placing in 5 rounds. He won round 9. He was 5th in the average. And you talk about the money being different for the steer wrestlers. $112,000 is his worst NFR in his last 6 seasons. His best NFR in his last 6 seasons are about $213,000. He is number 1 and number 2 in steer wrestling history for most money at a single NFR. And if you get a steer wrestler that goes over $200,000, that's a big, big boost to your team. And you get Tyler Waguespack at middle of the pack value. But then you go right down to Dakota Eldridge, who was also in the world title mix coming down the stretch. Guy who's been to 12 of the last 13 NFRs. He has been to more National Finals Rodeos than anyone in this field. And again, he finished 4th last year, placed in 4 rounds, made 7 runs of 4.2 seconds or faster at the National Finals Rodeo. And we mentioned it. He ranks top 10 this year in runs of 4 flat or faster. The veterans keep coming with Kyle Irwin at number 10. He's tied with Dakota Eldridge. Same amount of runs, 13 runs of 4 flat or faster. The last time we saw him, he won the NFR average 46.1 seconds on 10 in 2022. And he entered in a similar spot. He was number 9 when he won the average that year in 2022. Scott Guenthner. He can go really fast. He can win the Calgary Stampede. He keeps trying to retire. I think there's a human element for Scott Guenthner too, because he doesn't rodeo very hard because he wants to spend time with his family, which means he goes to less rodeos, which means at the end of the year, he's really got to up his rodeo count just to make the NFR when he's already got the money, which is what happened this year when he won the Calgary Stampede. He also dominated at the Canadian Finals Rodeo. Similar setup. I say all of that to say Scott Guenthner will have his family with him at the National Finals Rodeo. He will not have to worry about being away and taking away and having something else weighing on his mind, which just being a human when you are trying to retire, when you know in your heart you want to spend more time with your family, but you are out rodeoing, that can affect you. Well, he goes to the National Finals Rodeo and he knows what he needs to do for 10 nights. And for 10 nights, he can double his income for the year. And again, we already saw him dominate the Canadian Finals this year. So I think all of that plays into this may be his last hurrah as well. So a little disjointed in my thoughts about Scott Guenthner there. But the crux of what I'm trying to say is I think there's a big time human element that will allow Scott Guenthner to come in with a clear mind, plus the talent that he already has, I think is a big advantage for him. Our last guy. I said I like everyone in the top 12. I do also like Ty Erickson at number 14. But to finish this off, Bridger Anderson. At his last NFR in 2023, he only caught 7. However, he placed in 5 of those rounds, and he won 2 of them. So if he can clean that up, if he can just catch 9, there's a very good chance, based on what we saw the last time around, that if he catches 9 of 10, he probably places in 6 rounds, let's say, wins a round. That's really, really good if you can get that for the 12th guy, especially for the 12th ranked steer wrestler, because I've said this a bunch of times. But if you are looking in every other event, let's say, to get a minimum of $150,000 out of each guy, the steer wrestling you can afford to dip down to maybe $100,000 just because that'll rank higher in the total money earned. And I think Bridger Anderson gives you an opportunity to do that. So, all of that being said, I really feel like you can't go wrong in the steer wrestling, which might be cowardice of me to not really make a pick. Again, if I would have to say, it would be Tyler Waguespack is who I like the most, maybe him and JD Struxness. It's just a little more difficult in this event. But I hope this information provided you a little value. And I'm giving you a little freedom, a freedom you always have. But just take this in and choose accordingly. And just know it's a lot more of a crapshoot in the bulldogging. It's a lot more difficult to predict. And as I have said, I find it more predictable to predict than really any other event. So that is your steer wrestling fantasy rodeo preview brought to you by Virgin Hotels. We will finish these off this week. Make sure they are all done with 5 or 6 days in advance for the National Finals Rodeo. So you have all of the ammo, all of the knowledge that you need to begin making your picks. Until then, follow US Cowboy on all social media, subscribe on YouTube, hit the bell so you get the videos as they come out. And we will see you for the rest of the week as we continue on previewing all things 2025 National Finals Rodeo here on US Cowboy. Thank you for watching. We will see you next time.